working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles. We're moving to the next stage of the pandemic, and as the world resets to the new normal, we find ourselves seeking the right balance between health and livelihood, constantly adjusting the boundaries between liberty and responsibility. Welcome to ASEAN in Focus. First, the Manila court has found Rappler's Maria Ressa guilty of cyber libel in connection with a story Rappler published back in 2012 and republished in 2014. Judge Reynalda Estacio Montesa handed down the guilty verdict also against Rappler's former researcher, Reynaldo Santos Jr. The cyber libel complaint stems from the story linking businessman Wilfredo Keng to human trafficking and drug smuggling, citing what Rappler said was an intelligence report. The story also alleged Keng was the owner of the sport utility vehicle used by former Chief Justice Renato Corona. The businessman, Wilfredo Keng, said his reputation was defamed when he was linked to the then Supreme Court Chief Justice, who was later removed from office through an impeachment. State prosecutors later filed charges against her and Reynaldo Santos, the former Rappler journalist who wrote it, under the controversial cybercrime statute aimed at online offenses such as stalking and child pornography. Now, Ressa argued that the cyber libel law had not existed at the time that the article was written in 2012, and that it could not be applied retroactively. However, prosecutors said that the fact that edits were made to the article in 2014 meant that the law could apply. The former researcher, Reynaldo Santos Jr., was also found guilty on Monday and allowed to remain free on bail. Ressa faces up to 6 years behind bars, though it wasn't immediately clear how many years she would actually have to serve if the conviction becomes final and Judge Reynalda Estacio Montesa allowed Ressa to remain free on bail pending an appeal.
I think, taken alone, I think the decision for me is devastating because it essentially says that Rappler, that we are wrong. I think that's you can look at the body of evidence that is there and see, taken in the context of everything that has happened to us, the fact that the case, I now still face 7 criminal charges. It's not unexpected. And at the same time, again, I feel like we will keep fighting. I think this is a blow. It's a blow to us, but it's also not unexpected considering that we are going to stand up against any kind of attacks against press freedom. This is the first. It's followed by a whole slew of other cases of tax evasion, and then a whole slew that is based on foreign ownership and securities fraud.
The right to freedom, the right to free speech and freedom of the press cannot and should not be used as shield against accountability. Now, this is according to the Manila Regional Trial Court 46, which handed down a guilty verdict for cyber libel against Rappler's Maria Ressa and former researcher Reynaldo Santos Jr. Take a look. The cyber libel complaint was in connection with a story on businessman Wilfredo Keng, published by the media organization in 2012 and republished in 2014. Take a look. All right, ASEAN in Focus, we'll be right back.
Patindi ng patindi at tuloy-tuloy ang pagpapakita ng galing ng ating mga TNG aspirants. Abangan ang kanilang performances sa pinakamalaking talent competition sa buong bansa, Tagisan ng Galing.
program is presented by SMC Infrastructure, building a better world. Sandig sugar-free white coffee, puno ng white coffee taste without the sugar, kaya lower calories. Try mo na Sandig sugar-free white coffee. Sarap ng white coffee, now sugar-free. Vet-approved NutriChoice, the only premium dog food with active boost for optimum energy and prebiotics that help strengthen immunity. Just like Catherine Bernardo, gawing listo ganado ang fur babies niyo. Listo ganado sa NutriChoice. Magnolia Chicken Templados, delicious, ready to cook and freshly marinated daily. Pure Foods Luncheon Meat, pure sarap for every family. Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef, ang cheesy ng corned beef mo. Walang duda, kids can tell na #1 ang Pure Foods Tender Juicy. Ang tender, ang juicy, ang sarap. Co-presented by Cooper, expert in air conditioning and electromechanical. Also engaged in structural, electrical, fire protection, plumbing, and sanitary services. Cooper, your ultimate MEPS and air conditioning solutions. Unlad Incorporated International, fight against global poverty. New San Jose Builders Incorporated. Canrib Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Vita Herbs Philippines Green Coffee, masarap, mabango, at healthy pa. Puerto Rico Resort and Convention Center, Cabiao, Nueva Ecija. I love Puerto Rico. In participation with Rain or Shine Elastomeric Waterproofing Paint, Matinco. R Square Variables Incorporated, Compizel Enterprises, Saisho International Trading Corporation, DN Steel, IMAC UPB Roof Corporation.
Hey, Gretchen Ho here, and I'm a white coffee lover. Creamy kasi, and very yummy. Pero mas masarap kung hindi nakaka-guilty. Check my new discovery, San-Made Sugar-Free White Coffee. Puno ng white coffee taste without the sugar, kaya lower calories. Try mo na! San-Made Sugar-Free White Coffee. Sarap ng white coffee, now sugar-free.
Skyway Stages 1 and 2, the elevated toll road system project, run from a section of the South Luzon Expressway from Alabang to Magallanes, Makati. The Skyway Stage 3 is an elevated expressway connecting the South Luzon Expressway through the existing Skyway Stages 1 and 2 to the North Luzon Expressway via Balintawak. Skyway Stage 4 is an 80-kilometer mixed elevated and at-grade toll road that will connect the existing Skyway system starting from the FTI section all the way to Bulacan.
Listo at ganado ang baby ko sa vet-approved NutriChoice with active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat, with essential nutrients to help them grow healthy and happy. Listo, ganado sa NutriChoice.
Ikaw lang ang star ng buhay ko. Para sa akin, perfect ka. Ang cheesy ng corned beef mo. Pag Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef, sarap ng corned beef, inangat pa ng real cheese cubes. Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef.
Welcome back. The right to free speech and freedom of the press cannot and should not be used as a shield against accountability. This is according to the Manila Regional Trial Court 46, which handed down a guilty verdict, take a look, for cyber libel against Rappler's Maria Ressa and former researcher Reynaldo Santos Jr. The cyber libel complaint was in connection with a story on businessman Wilfredo King, published by the media organization back in 2012 and republished in 2014. In the story, Rappler alleged King was linked to human trafficking and smuggling activities, citing what it said was an intelligence report. King has vehemently denied the allegations. Again, take a look. According to the 37-page ruling by Judge Reynalda Montesa, if a person is found violating this law in accordance with the parameters it provides, then he or she is penalized and will be held accountable. If a private individual, a netizen, can be held accountable for any defamatory posts or comments in the internet, the court said so too must accountability and journalistic responsibility be brought to bear upon online news organization since the extent of its influence as powered by the internet goes beyond the physical limitation of printed publications. Let's go over to Thailand. Major zoos and national parks reopened today. Farah Benito reports from Thailand.
Alma.
Hi, Farah.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Hello there. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. So your updates from Thailand, Farah?
Yeah. By the way, I'm at Rang Hill Beach, a well-known hilltop site here in Phuket. And moving on to our latest news today. Starting 15th of June, that is today, Alma, the Minister of Natural Resources and Environment told a press briefing that 6 of Thailand's major zoos and 127 of the country's 155 national parks are set to open their doors again for visitors free of charge until the end of the month. Some restrictions will still apply. There will be 2,000 visitor daily limit over the 2 entry periods, which is 8 a.m. to 12 noon and 12 noon to 5 p.m. in order to shorten visiting times and reduce crowding. Also, visitors must now book tickets by phone or online, and on arrival, they will have their temperature taken and will be asked to check in with the Taichana application. The minister added that social distancing will be enforced in crowded areas like ticket booths, shuttle buses, and food stalls. And hand sanitizing gel will be placed around the grounds. The use of air conditioning will also be limited as a precautionary measure. 127 national parks, mostly forest areas, will also reopen, but 28 marine parks will remain closed due to monsoon season. 64 national parks will be completely open, while 63 will not open all areas just yet. On the other side of the news, Alma, Vice President of the Phuket Real Estate Association, says there will be no quick bounce back for the island's property market, saying it will take at least 2 years for things to recover from the devastating effects of COVID-19. Speaking to Bangkok Post, Boon Yong Sakul, owner of Boat Lagoon, says the fallout has been particularly severe in Phuket because the province relies so much heavily in tourism. Mr. Boon points out that 70 to 80% of the province's economy has traditionally been driven by tourism, leading to Phuket taking a much heavier hit than many other parts of the country. He suggests that one way the government might prevent this happening again would be to shift the focus away from tourism and rebrand Phuket as a medical and educational destination. Mr. Boon added that since he have been in the property business, he have never experienced anything worse than this crisis. Even SARS, avian flu, and the tsunami way back 2004 were incomparable with the coronavirus. Mr. Boon anticipates that any recovery will be driven initially by expat buyers from places like Singapore and Hong Kong, many of whom may wish to move because of the high cost of living in the former and the current political unrest in the latter. He believes extending the current leasehold period from 30 to 50 years will provide an additional incentive for buyers looking for a secure investment. That's all for today's latest news here in Phuket. Back to you, Alma.
Thank you very much, Farah, for your updates there in Phuket. You have a lovely background. Thank you very much, EBC Phuket, Thailand Bureau.
Thank you so much. Reporting from Phuket, Thailand, this is Farah Benito. We live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, Thailand also ranks second in the world and first in Asia for COVID-19 recovery. Plus, Thailand is stressing the need to turn challenges of this pandemic into opportunities. Reporting live from Bangkok is Faye Barte. Hello, Faye.
Hello, Alma. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to everybody. Here are the updates from Thailand, and let's go positive. Thailand comes second after Australia among the countries with the highest COVID-19 recovery index, and it is ranked first in Asia according to a report issued by the Global COVID-19 Index, or the GCI, on June 11, 2020. Another update which comes with a positivity is the fourth phase of easing restrictions on certain businesses and activities would be effective from June 15, 2020. So the curfew would be lifted from June 14, so that was already started. Travel restrictions into the kingdom via land, sea, and air remain in force. Thailand extended also a ban on international flights until the end of June. However, in general situation of Thailand, most of the businesses or activities, especially like exercising and healthcare activities, are already reopened. However, there are some businesses or activities like places of entertainment, pubs, bars, karaoke venues, massage parlors are not allowed to reopen. Another update, Alma, the foreign minister had a simple meeting with the fourth high-level brainstorming dialogue on enhancing complementaries between the ASEAN Community Vision 2025 and the UN 2030 Agenda. So on his opening remarks, the foreign minister focused on enhancing people's well-being, promoting human capital development, and finding a balance between economic and social development and environmental impact. The last update, which is very much positive for everybody here in Thailand, the government reported 0 new coronavirus cases and no new deaths on Monday, and that is today, leaving the total number of infections in Thailand at 3,135 with 58 deaths since January. Back to you, Alma.
Thank you very much, Faye, for your updates there in Bangkok. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Likewise, Alma, reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand Bureau. This is Faye Barte, and we live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, Malaysia is among the top 5 globally to have successfully contained COVID-19. And the Ministry of Home Affairs there in Malaysia intends to standardize the documentation of foreign nationals from the Philippines in Sabah by using one document. Joining us live from Kuala Lumpur is Ruby Tinawin. Hello, Ruby.
Hello, Alma. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, for the latest news here in Malaysia, Malaysia has been recognized as among the 5 nations in the world to have succeeded in controlling the spread of COVID-19. That's according to Senior Minister of Security Cluster, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob. In a daily conference here yesterday, Ismail Sabri said Malaysia, under the leadership of Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, was one of the countries where the government's action in controlling the spread of the virus was well accepted by the people, receiving global recognition following a survey. He said it was an arduous and challenging decision when the Prime Minister introduced the Movement Control Order on March 18, which was followed by the enhanced MCO in several areas, aiming at curbing the spread of the infection among the community. He added that the good cooperation of all Malaysians who had complied with every directive issued led to the flattening of the COVID-19 curve in the country. Ismail Sabri also announced that starting today, the daily MCO press conference would only be held 3 times a week. On people being quarantined at home, the senior minister said those involved were required to download the My Sejahtera app and wear a wristband as identification. He said individuals who violate the mandatory quarantine process and SOP could be fined 1,000 or taken to court. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Home Affairs here in Malaysia intends to standardize the documentation of foreign nationals from the Philippines in Sabah by using only one document, namely IMM 13. As among the strategies to facilitate identification of illegal immigrants from that country. Minister Datuk Sri Hamzah Zainuddin said the government would not issue any new document to the group, but was instead looking at using an existing document to avoid any confusion. He told reporters after a visit to the Mengatau Temporary Detention Center yesterday. IMM 13 is one of the documents issued to the citizens of the Philippines with refugee status. in addition to other documents such as census certificate, which was issued during the Federal Special Task Force Legalization Program and the Kat Burung Burung Program of the 1970s to the 1990s. Hamza said the use of only one document such as IMM 13 was also to smoothen the process of sending the group back to their home countries. For the record, Alma, he also said there were about 136,000 illegal immigrants in the state of Sabah using identification documents including IMM 13, together with census certificate and Kad Burung Burung, urging that the government feels there is no need for so many documents to be issued to foreigners. Hamza said this is a strategy to enable regularization to be done before contacting the embassies of the countries involved to inform them about their people in Sabah so that they are given proper documents, adding that with proper documents they can work here in Malaysia as foreign nationals and registered as foreign workers. Meanwhile, Hamza said his ministry intended to send all 7,000 illegal immigrants at the Mengatal Temporary Detention Center throughout Sabah because the government was forced to allocate a huge expenditure to manage the group. However, he said the Ministry of Home Affairs would resolve the matter in stages, including holding discussions with the Sabah government to address the issue after receiving detailed information on the matter. The people of Sabah were also asked to cooperate with the agencies under the ministry in an effort to overcome the flooding of illegal immigrants in the states. In our news, the current developments related to COVID-19 pandemic do not affect the country's economic recovery during the recovery MCO period, according to Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Datuk Sri Mustafa Mohammed. He said the spread of COVID-19 has, however, affected the psychological well-being of the public, a factor that could slow down the economic recovery process. Now, Mustafa was speaking after working visit to the Bukit Rokan Felda settlement near here, said the main priority of the government now is to tackle the public health challenges brought by COVID-19. He added that an estimated 90% of Malaysians have returned to work, a sign that the economy is recovering. He said, and I quote, the focus of the government now includes explaining the SOPs. There should be more meetings between the relevant quarters and the government, and this is happening. He said, I feel that if the SOPs can be explained further, we will be able to see several economic sectors reopening and operating smoothly. Back to you, Alma.
Thank you, Ruby, for your updates there in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Yes, reporting live from EBC Malaysia Bureau, this is Ruby Tinawin. We live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, the Vietnamese Ministry of Agriculture Rural Development approved the import of live pigs from Thailand. That development from Ralph Wandolph Empai. Hello, Ralph.
The Vietnamese Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development has given the green light to the import of live pigs from Thailand for both farming and slaughter from Friday. In a document issued on Thursday, the ministry assigned its Animal Health Department to issue detailed guidance on quarantine measures for the imported pigs in line with its existing regulations to prevent animal diseases and ensure the safety of domestic herds. The department director is also responsible for boosting its coordination with intersector agencies at ports of entry and local authorities to strictly manage the live imports. In a document signed by Agriculture and Rural Development Deputy Minister Phung Duc Tien last month, the ministry required that imported hogs be subject to 30-day quarantine as per the effective regulations on cattle import. This is the first time Vietnam has allowed the importation of live pigs for slaughter in a bid to bring down domestic pork prices that have skyrocketed over scarcity caused by the African swine fever epidemic last year. Thailand was chosen as a supplier as its wholesale prices of live hogs currently range between $2.36 and $2.57 per kilogram. much lower than Vietnam's current live pig prices averaging 4.08 US dollars per kilogram. And this is Ralph Wandop M5, bringing you the latest updates here in Vietnam. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Ralph. Adjusting to the new normal, Sri Lanka will allow 25 students per classroom. Joining us live from Sri Lanka is Vanessa Viloria Silva. Hello, Vanessa.
Hi, Alma. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good to see you back.
Yes, Alma. It's good to see you. Thank you so much. So here's the latest update here in Sri Lanka. The Ministry of Education has decided the number of students per classroom should be limited to 25 when schools resume academic activities next month. Secretary to the Ministry of Education, Ranjit Chandrasekhara, said only 1,000 schools, which comprise higher numbers of students, have been instructed to follow this procedure. On June 9, Ministry of Education Dulas Alaha Peruma announced that all public schools will be reopened under 4 stages, as the country is gradually returning to normalcy with no community coronavirus infections being reported for over a month. Under the first stage, the teachers and principals will return to schools on the 29th of June. In the meantime, students in grade 13, 11, and 5 will return to schools on 6th of July under the second stage. The third stage will see the resumption of academic activities of students in grade 10 and 12 on the 20th of July. On the 27th of July, school will reopen for students in grade 3, 4, 6, 7, and 9 in the fourth and final stage. And another update, Alma, authorities in Sri Lanka have held mock elections as part of a test of new anti-coronavirus voting measures. Voters wore face masks, stood 1 meter, 3 feet apart in queues, and brought their own pens and pencils to mark the ballot papers. Officials were protected by plastic screens or face shields and sprayed disinfectants on voters. Sri Lanka postponed parliamentary elections originally scheduled for April. Because of the virus, the vote is due to be held on August 5. Sunday's trial run was held in 4 of the country's 22 electoral districts. It was designed to get voters to use to the new system and see if extra voting time was needed. And quick update, Alma, for COVID-19 here in Sri Lanka as of today, June 15, 1,889 confirmed cases, 591 active cases, 1,287 recovered and discharged, and 11 deaths. Back to you, Alma.
All right. Thank you very much, Vanessa, for your updates there in Sri Lanka. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Yes, Alma. Reporting live from Sri Lanka, this is Vanessa Viloria Silva, and we live in interesting times.
Okay, let's try this again. The right to free speech and freedom of the press cannot and should not be used as a shield against accountability. Now, this is according to the Manila Regional Trial Court, Branch 46, which handed down a guilty verdict for cyber libel against Rappler's Maria Ressa and former researcher Reynaldo Santos Jr. The cyber libel complaint was in connection with a story on businessman Wilfredo Keng published by the media organization in 2012 and republished in 2014. In the story, Rappler alleged Keng was linked to human trafficking and smuggling activities, citing what it said was an intelligence report. And Keng has vehemently denied the allegations. According to the 37-page ruling by Judge Reynalda Estacio Montesa, if a person is found violating this law in accordance with the parameters it provides, then he or she is penalized and will be held accountable. If a private individual, a netizen, can be held accountable for any defamatory posts or comments in the internet, the court said so too must accountability and journalistic responsibility be brought to bear upon online news organizations, since the extent of its intelligence, as powered by the internet, goes beyond the physical limitation of printed publications. ASEAN in Focus, we'll be right back.
containment.
We are in uncharted territory.
Final volume 450. FI on to 100%. Standing by. Construction.
In Brunei, the minister at the Prime Minister's office and Second Minister of Finance and Economy, Mon Amin Liu, said that the country is not ready to open borders with neighboring countries anytime soon. He also said there's no negotiations with other countries on this matter. According to the local Borneo Bulletin, on Sunday, Liu made the comments regarding a recent report saying that the green lane or the green bubble on the possibility of opening borders with the neighboring countries. The minister added that there may be a misconception or misunderstanding on this matter. The minister said that the special lane set up between Singapore and China is not for tourists, but specifically for those who are carrying out business or on an official visit, making it a special arrangement. Brunei reported no new cases of COVID-19 on Sunday, with the national tally of cases standing at 141, marking the 38th day without new cases since May 7. And there have been 2 deaths resulted from COVID-19 in Brunei. In other news, the U.S. government is very much willing to share to the Philippines any coronavirus disease, 2019 vaccines, and therapeutics once these become available. This was one of the topics discussed by the Department of National Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana and his U.S. counterpart, Mark Esper, during their telephone call on Friday, June 12. On Sunday, the DND statement said Secretary Esper mentioned that developments on vaccines and therapeutics in the U.S. are making very good progress and expressed their willingness to share them with U.S. allies and partners once available. Lorenzana also took the opportunity to share the Philippines' response to the COVID-19 and expressed his appreciation for the medical assistance and donations of medical supplies provided by the U.S. government. Esper, on the other hand, expressed his appreciation for the DND support for the Philippine government's decision to suspend the termination of the agreement regarding the treatment of U.S. armed forces visiting the Philippines, referred to as the Visiting Forces Agreement. Now, both defense officials also discussed the security situation in the South China Sea, counterterrorism, and logistics cooperation, particularly on the capability upgrades of the armed forces of the Philippines. Meanwhile, President Duterte is weighing in on 3 options for the new quarantine classification to be implemented over Metro Manila and Cebu by June 16. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said President Duterte could retain the General Community Quarantine or GCQ classification in both areas, place them in the least strict modified GCQ or MGCQ, or return them to more strict modified enhanced community quarantine or MECQ. In a radio interview on Saturday, Secretary Roque said it would be up to the president because they are balancing the economy and enough capacity to provide medical care for critical patients. MGCQ is the lowest level of community quarantine imposed by the government before the shift to the new normal. Under MGCQ, public gatherings would be allowed up to 50% of the venue's capacity and more transport options would be available. Secretary Roque, however, said the high number of cases in Metro Manila and Cebu don't seem to deem a transition from the current GCQ to MGCQ. Earlier, Secretary Roque ensured that the country is ready to enforce the new quarantine rules by June 16. He said the Department of the Interior and Local Government, or DILG, had already informed the local government units, or LGUs, about the possible quarantine reclassifications in their respective localities. President Duterte is set to announce the new quarantine classifications in the country today, June 15. And ASEAN in Focus will be right back.
Yeah! Shoutout sa lahat ng mga nasa kani-kanila mga bahay, mga timbahay natin dyan. Yeah! Yo! COVID-19 ka lang. Yo! Paano ba dapat iwasan? Ace Gut Beats nga pala, Ace Guts.
Ace Guts on the beat.
Masyado ka na bang natatakot, nagugulumihanan sa mga napapanood mo? Kakilakilabot na balita na kamamatay na virus, dulutay pagkalito. Kakabaka-baka kahit sa loob ka ng bahay, baka ka madapuan. Parang pakapaka pa sa pamilihan yung mga kailangan, baka ka maubusan. Pahabol-habol, sino may alkohol, baka may maskatol sa may bandaron. May bumibili pa nga ng 2 kahon, nilalabon nata nila sa katol. Gusto ko namang hamon, kailan magkakaroon? Imbis na mataranta, pati maghinahon. Magdiwangan magsalo-salo sa ganito sitwasyon. Manatili ka sa bahay, mas ligas ka ron. Sumunod sa alituntunin dahil ang magsisi lagi na sa dulo. Minsan ang kapahamakan wala sa virus kundi sa katigasan ng ulo. Walang turuan, dapat ang tulungan dahil yun ang pinakamaigi. Hugas kamay sa lababo, hindi sa paninisi, habaan ng pisi. Basahin mo mabuti, nakita mo balita bago mo ikalat, dapat manigurado. Pag hindi ka naging responsable, magigimit siya ng bagong pagkatalo. Simulan mo sa'yo ang pagbabago, pangako sa'yo may mababago. Kapag ang tama, minamasama, iba ka nalang layunin, hindi yung mga tao. Basta sumunod ka, kumonsulta, saka mong pumunta, dapat nga malulugod ka. Dahil may mga taong handang ialik at ilang buhay para hindi ka madapuan ng sakit. Wala yung kapalit upang yung makamit, di ka sa buhay, dito sa kalagitnaan ng panahon ng krisis, hindi dapat ibinawaglit. Saludo sa mga frontline ng ating bayan. Di lang sila, lahat tayo ay may kinalaman. Huwag mo hayaang malantakan na parang halaman. Binigyan mo ang iyong sarili ng kaalaman. Wala mo nang hahawak ng bola, beso-beso kay lolo't lola. Baka hindi lang paggalang ang maipasa mo, coronavirus. Iwan sa labas ang nice shoes, imbis na magchichirya, right foot, veg and fruits. At kapag nasunod mo ng lahat, ikaw pa'y alanganin. Alanganin na kontrol, idaan mo na sa panalangin. At ang kalimang napapahamak, tandaan mong di ka dapat na matakot. Dapat sumunod ka sa kanyang utos, sa dakilang manggagamot.
Indonesia has been drawing up a plan to allow the resumption of travel to and from other 4 countries. That includes Japan. This is an effort towards economic recovery after the tourism sector has been hit hard by the coronavirus pandemic. Odo Manuhutu, a deputy coordinating minister involved in the tourism issues, said the Ministry of Foreign Affairs are currently designing travel bubbles for 4 countries, that is China, South Korea, Japan, and Australia. Now, the arrangements with the 4 countries will be prototypes before other travel routes are opened. Manuhutu indicated that the 4 countries were selected because their investment, quote, their investment has helped Indonesia's economy a lot. Now, direct flights such as from Seoul to Jakarta or Osaka to Bali will be encouraged when the travel corridors are created. Quote, because people now avoid transits due to concern about the transmission of the new coronavirus on multi-flight routes. The other week, the capital Jakarta opened mosques for the first time in nearly 3 months as its governor announced the gradual reopening of closed offices, restaurants, shopping malls, and tourist attractions, rather. Similar easing measures are happening across the vast archipelago, home to nearly 270 million people, as the government rolled out a new normal policy aimed at heading off a collapse in Southeast Asia's biggest economy. Meanwhile, Indonesian hospitals are beefing up security at their morgues after a spate of body snatchings by relatives seeking traditional burials for family members who died of COVID-19, according to police. Now, under new rules in the sprawling archipelago, COVID-19 victims must be wrapped in plastic and buried quickly to prevent the virus spreading, meaning grieving relatives are unable to follow Muslim funeral practices, which include washing the dead from head to toe. Now, families in the Muslim-majority nation have also been urged not to linger at cemeteries, robbing them of the chance to perform prayers for their loved ones. Now, large groups of distraught relatives descended on several hospitals in Makassar on Sulawesi Island this week, with some managing to forcefully take away their bodies or the bodies set to be buried under the virus protocols, according to authorities. At least 33 people were arrested, according to local police spokesman Ibrahim Tompo, who added they faced up to 7 years in prison for violating health quarantine regulations. In response, Makassar authorities have deployed more personnel to guard the local hospitals. Now, rumors that some victims of the slated for a quick burial had died of unrelated illnesses had exacerbated the situation, according to Mr. Tompo. Now, he said this angered the families and locals, so they decided to forcefully take the bodies home. In Surabaya, Indonesia's second biggest city, authorities said Friday that they had arrested 4 people after relatives grabbed the body of a suspected virus victim from a local hospital. Also this week, dozens of people snatched the corpse of a man who died at hospital in Bekasi, a city that borders the capital Jakarta, according to police. Citing the interrogation of one suspect, police said the man took to snatching his relative because he had died before test results were available, and they later confirmed he really had the virus. In other news, the United States Embassy in Manila has recently announced the cancellation of all immigrant and non-immigrant visa interviews scheduled through July 3 because of the quarantine measures in the Philippines. In a statement dated June 11, the embassy said they will resume routine visa service as soon as possible but are unable to provide a specific date at this time. They appreciate your patience and understanding, they said in a statement. The embassy also said the embassy also advised all affected applicants to reschedule their visa interviews via the embassy call center once the community quarantine is lifted in Metro Manila. The embassy said there is no fee to change an appointment, and visa application fees are valid for 1 year in the country where the fee was paid. Metro Manila remains under general community quarantine pending the government announcement of new quarantine classifications on June 15. And as the coronavirus pandemic paralyzed global travel and closed many of the parks in mid-March, Thailand's domesticated elephants have been unemployed, and many are at risk of starvation. And they've been brought home, but the homecoming is not without problems.
There is no areas for the elephant to roam and rest for food. So still a lot of the boys has to travel for the long distance and find the food from the outside source. And that's very difficult. Many of them run out of their budget. A high chance that some of the elephant may get loose at night and roam into the farming properties, farming areas, and that would probably start the what we call HEC, human-elephant conflict.
Home for some of the animals is the northern village of Wuai Pakut, where generations of ethnic Karen Mahouts or elephant handlers have been rearing the giant mammals for 4 centuries. But it's around tourist hub Chiang Mai, 180 kilometers away, that many of them and their elephants work performing money-spinning tricks for foreigners. In amusement parks or sanctuaries, some of the controversial camps employ abusive methods to break and train the elephants who earn their keep by entertaining busloads of tourists eager for a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And as the coronavirus pandemic paralyzed the global travel and closed many of the parks in mid-March, however, Thailand's some 3,000 domesticated elephants have been unemployed. Many at risk of starvation have been brought home. The Boracay Interagency Task Force on Thursday approved the reopening of Boracay to tourists from Western Visayas starting June 16. Now, this was announced by Environment and Natural Resources Secretary Boy Simatu in a virtual presser, citing the island's readiness to accept local travelers. The BIATF chief said only locals from Negros Occidental, Guimaras, Iloilo, Antique, Aklan, and Capiz will have the privilege to enter the island on its Phase 1 reopening. Interior Secretary Eduardo Año, meanwhile, said among the factors considered in the reopening was the progress of Aklan in controlling the coronavirus infections. While tourism resumes, Interior Secretary Eduardo Año said restrictions such as curfew may still be imposed within the discretion of the LGU. He said they can still impose curfew under MGCQ. The BIATF has yet to enumerate the tourism activities allowed on the island, but the general idea is anchored on, quote, no contact movements. Those below 21 years old and above 60 years old would also be denied entry in compliance with the existing MGCQ guidelines. With Boracay under the new normal, Tourism Chief Bernadette Romulo Puyat said the same protocols applied for MGCQ areas will serve as rules for hotel operations. Under said guidelines, accommodation establishments are required to impose stringent measures for physical distancing. All hotels in Boracay had been accredited by the Department of Tourism following its previous 6-month closure, but Romulo Puyat said they would have to submit a letter of intent to operate at the reopening. Since June 1, Boracay residents had the long stretch of fine white sand beaches to themselves after the LGU lifted the swimming ban with the province's transition to modified general community quarantine. The task force said they decided to gradually open Boracay to boost its local economy. And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.